What's up, all you Quantumaniacs? I'm DeQwan Young, and today we present one draft pick every NFL team wishes they had back. Also, don't forget to subscribe to TPS and make sure you hit the bell and turn on our notifications to join the notification squad. And don't forget to leave your video ideas down in the comments. We're looking, and we'll give you a shout out if we use the video. History is made in the NFL draft. Super Bowl champions happen because of smart draft picks, and teams always lose because they have long histories of making bad draft moves. Hello, Matt Millen. Every NFL team has a different history, but they all have one thing in common. They were all set back by at least one major draft mistake, or 34 thanks to Matt Millen. One that they wish they could change. Unfortunately for them, it's way too late for that. Once again, I have to name drop Matt Millen. The Arizona Cardinals, Andre WADSWORTH, 1998. After Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf went first and second respectively, the Arizona Cardinals took Florida State defensive end Andre WADSWORTH at number 3. Unfortunately, WADSWORTH just wasn't able to perform at the professional level. He tallied a mere 8 sacks over a trio of seasons and last played professionally in 2000. The Cardinals passed on future Hall of Famer Charles Woodson, who went to the Oakland Raiders at number 4. Arizona also passed on Randy Moss. The Atlanta Falcons, Jamal Anderson, 2007. The Falcons have actually been one of the NFL's strongest drafting teams over the past decade or so. That said, taking Arkansas defensive end Jamal Anderson with the 8th pick in 2007 was a huge mistake. The hulking Anderson lasted just 4 seasons in Atlanta, recording a mere 4.5 sacks. The Falcons passed up on many future superstars, including Patrick Willis, running back Marshawn Lynch, legendary cornerback Darrelle Revis, and future Hall of Fame safety Eric Weddle. Surely, one of those guys would have helped Atlanta get over their well-documented playoff woes by now. The Baltimore Ravens, Mark Clayton, 2005. Consistently in the playoff hunt throughout their history, the Ravens hadn't had many picks in the top 10, and they seem to hit home runs with almost every first-round selection. There really aren't that many picks this team wasted throughout their first 23 years. Now, with that being said, the Ravens would have loved a do-over on the decision to take wide receiver Mark Clayton with the number 22 selection in 2005. He had just 234 receptions for 3,116 yards and 12 touchdowns over his 5 years in Baltimore. The Ravens passed up on the chance to draft Aaron Rodgers and Roddy White, and Heath Miller and Frank Gore and Justin Tuck. You get the point. The Buffalo Bills, Sammy Watkins, 2014. Okay, so Sammy Watkins wasn't exactly a draft bust, but he only had one productive year with the Bills. And the thing is, Buffalo had to give up 3 picks, including 2 first-rounders, to move up via the Cleveland Browns to land Watkins at number 4 overall. And why else do we put Watkins on this list if he wasn't Buffalo's worst pick? Well, here's a small list of the future Pro Bowlers and franchise stars that the Bills passed on in favor of. Aaron Donald, Odell Beckham Jr., Khalil Mack, Anthony Barr, Mike Evans, Ryan Shazier, Dee Ford, DeMarcus Lawrence. Now, if you take a look at other Bills draft mistakes in the past, you won't find such a list with so many superstars they passed on. The Carolina Panthers, Tim Biakabatuka, 1996. The Panthers have also been excellent at drafting throughout their history, but they sure wish they had a mulligan with their first-round pick in 1996. Carolina selected Michigan running back Tim Biakabatuka at number 8 overall. He lasted just 6 seasons and totaled just 2,530 yards and 14 touchdowns. By the way, Carolina passed on 4 Hall of Famers: Marvin Harrison, Ray Lewis, Terrell Owens, and Brian Dawkins. Other stars they could have selected included Eddie George, Lawyer Milloy, and Teddy Bruschi. The Chicago Bears, Kevin White, 2015. Lots to choose from. We have to go with a more recent draft mistake here. After trading Pro Bowler Brandon Marshall, the Bears drafted West Virginia wideout Kevin White with the 7th pick in 2015. Unfortunately, he just couldn't stay healthy and kept landing on the injured reserve. He played just 14 total games with the Bears, catching 25 passes for 285 yards and no touchdowns. The Bears passed on some of the game's biggest stars of today, including Todd Gurley, Vic Beasley, Melvin Gordon, and Landon Collins. The Cincinnati Bengals, KI-JANA Carter, 1995. The Bengals took the Penn State running back with the 1st overall selection. Unfortunately, KI-JANA Carter's career was marred by injuries. In 4 years with the Bengals, he totaled just 747 yards and 16 touchdowns. Shoulder, wrist, and knee injuries let Carter down, and the Bengals never got much out of him. 2 future Pro Bowl quarterbacks in Steve McNair and Kerry Collins went after Carter. Future Hall of Famers in Warren Sapp, Derrick Brooks, and Ty Law went later in the 1st round. All of them could have done quite a bit to fix a franchise that had been struggling for so long. The Cleveland Browns, Tim Couch, 1999. We could easily put about 20 first-round picks by the Cleveland Browns in this entry, but Tim Couch, among all of them, was supposed to be the true franchise face, and he went first overall in 1999. The Browns had just been reactivated by the NFL following the controversial relocation to Baltimore in 1996. But as everyone knows, Couch simply didn't come as advertised for the Browns. In 5 years with the team, he recorded just 22 wins against 37 losses. He had 64 touchdowns with 67 interceptions. 8 of the ensuing 10 picks became Pro Bowlers. This includes quarterbacks Donovan McNabb, Dante Culpepper, future Hall of Fame cornerback Champ Bailey was also available, same with Edgerrin James and Torrey Holt. Yeah, this pick set Cleveland back all right. I mean, it didn't really set them back, it's Cleveland. The Dallas Cowboys, David LaFleur, 1997. The Cowboys don't have that one draft bust that really stands out among the rest. They've hit most of their early picks throughout their history, and they've also traded a ton of first rounders over the past 20 years. Historically speaking, they're one of the best drafting teams in all of sports. But taking LSU tight end David LaFleur with the 22nd pick in 1997 was quite the mistake. He played just 4 seasons in the NFL and finished with 85 receptions for 729 yards and 12 touchdowns. The Cowboys passed on 2 future Pro Bowl backs in Tiki Barber and Corey Dillon, but I suppose they did have Emmitt Smith. The Denver Broncos, Alphonso Smith, 2009. How much did Denver Broncos head coach Josh McDaniels value cornerback Alphonso Smith? Enough to surrender his 2010 first-round pick in order to obtain the 37th selection from the Seattle Seahawks in 2009. How did that turn out? Smith played 1 year in Denver and was traded to the Detroit Lions for Dan Gronkowski. And the Seahawks used that pick. They got on Pro Bowl safety Earl Thomas. Fittingly, the Hawks would crush the Broncos in Super Bowl 48, giving Thomas and the Seahawks the last laugh. To make it worse, Denver passed on numerous Pro Bowl talents like Max Unger, LaShawn McCoy, Glover Quinn, and Mike Wallace, among others. The Detroit Lions, Charles Rogers, 2003. 1 year after they took quarterback Joey Harrington at number 3 overall, that was bad too. The Detroit Lions thought Charles Rogers would be the final missing piece on offense. The Michigan State wideout was selected at 2nd overall, but that didn't go as planned as well. Rogers played just 3 years with the Lions, totaling 36 receptions for 440 yards and 4 touchdowns. And who went right after Rogers? Andre Johnson. You know, a 7-time Pro Bowler who's going to the Hall of Fame. The Green Bay Packers, Tony Mandarich, 1989. Billed as the best offensive lineman prospect ever by Sports Illustrated, Tony Mandarich was selected with the number 2 pick by the Packers in 1989. It was a mess from the get-go. He held out and displayed his ego, saying everyone had to understand that he wasn't like the other players. He was Tony Mandarich. Well, guess what? Mandarich was a huge disappointment in the NFL and never became a reliable starter in Green Bay. And guess who went before Mandarich? Troy Aikman. Guess who the next 3 picks were? Barry Sanders, Derek Thomas, and Deion Sanders. All of them, along with Aikman, are in the Hall of Fame. The Houston Texans, David Carr, 2002. With the first selection in franchise history, the Texans took David Carr with the 1st overall pick in 2002. And Carr can't be blamed entirely for his shortcomings. After all, he was sacked an NFL record 76 times in his rookie year. But he also went just 22-53 as a starter in Houston, with 59 touchdowns and 65 interceptions. Want to guess who went right after Carr? Julius Peppers. Yeah, the Indianapolis Colts, Jeff George in 1990. The Colts wound up passing on a handful of future Hall of Famers when they took George in 1990. In 4 seasons with the Colts, he won just 14 games and lost 35. He had 41 touchdowns and 46 interceptions in that span. 2 picks later, the Seahawks took Hall of Fame defensive end Cortez Kennedy. The San Diego Chargers took Hall of Famer Junior Seau at number 5, and the Dallas Cowboys took all-time rushing leader Emmitt Smith at number 17. The Jacksonville Jaguars, Blaine Gabbert, 2011. The Jags have had their fair share of draft mistakes in the 2010s, but perhaps none hurt more than the decision to take Blaine Gabbert. The Missouri quarterback was taken 10th overall. In fact, the Jaguars traded up with the Washington Redskins to get Gabbert, and it turned out to be a massive flop of a pick. Gabbert went 5-22 as the Jags starter. He's been since used as a backup, bouncing around from team to team. AFC South rival Houston took J.J. Watt with the next pick. Ryan Kerrigan, Cameron Jordan, Mark Ingram, Cameron Hayward are among the later first-round picks that the Jaguars passed. The Kansas City Chiefs, Todd Blackledge, 1983. The 83 draft class is widely remembered for being home to many great quarterbacks. Unfortunately for the Chiefs, Todd Blackledge wasn't one of them. He was taken with the 7th pick, and the 2 NFL quarterback legends went right after him in the first round. The first, Jim Kelly, who led the Buffalo Bills to 4 straight Super Bowl appearances in the 90s. The second, Dan Marino, the greatest player in Miami Dolphins history, and maybe the best pocket passer of his era. Oh, and Bruce Matthews and Darryl Green were other Hall of Famers that Kansas City could have taken in round 1. Blackledge would only start 24 games over a 5-year span for KC. Kelly and Marino are in the Hall of Fame. You see where we're going with this. The Los Angeles Chargers, Ryan Leaf, 1998. The Colts wisely took future Hall of Famer, 2-time Super Bowl champion, and 5-time MVP Peyton Manning with the 1st overall pick. The Chargers then took Ryan Leaf at number 2. Like Manning, Leaf was considered to be a can't-miss product. But Leaf's career in the NFL was a straight-up disaster. He put himself before the team, clashed with the media, couldn't get along with coaches or teammates, and just couldn't produce on the field. He went 4-14 as the Chargers starter, was out of the NFL after the 2001 season. He is regarded by most as the biggest draft bust in history. The Los Angeles Rams, George Andrews, 1979. The Rams have certainly made a great deal of draft mistakes in the past. Greg Robinson, Lawrence Phillips, Sam Bradford, and Tavon Austin come to mind. But in terms of the biggest franchise-changing mistake, we'd have to go back to 1979. That year, the Rams picked 5 times before the San Francisco 49ers made their selection at the 82nd spot. Who did the 49ers take with that pick? Joe Montana. The Rams took linebacker George Andrews at the 19th spot. He was never able to transform into a Pro Bowler, but of course, you could put the Rams' next 4 selections on this list along with Andrews. Our point is this: the Rams know they messed up by not taking Montana. Maybe they would have been the dynasty team of the 80s instead of their California rivals. The Miami Dolphins, Dion Jordan, 2013. The Dolphins made a deal with the Oakland Raiders to move up at number 3, where they would take Oregon defensive end Dion Jordan. And that didn't go well. Jordan only played 2 seasons in Miami, and he was suspended for all of 2015 for violating the league's P policy. He also didn't play in 2016, and Miami wound up releasing him in the ensuing offseason. The Minnesota Vikings, Troy Williamson, 2005. Needing to replace star wideout Randy Moss, the Vikings drafted South Carolina wideout Troy Williamson with the 7th selection. Minnesota actually obtained this pick from the Raiders in the Moss trade. 7 of the next 8 picks became Pro Bowlers, including future Hall of Fame inductee DeMarcus Ware and linebackers Derek Johnson and Thomas Davis. And Green Bay took Aaron Rodgers with the 24th selection. In 3 years with the Vikings, Williamson had just 79 receptions for 1,067 yards and 3 touchdowns. The New England Patriots, Jim Plunkett, 1971. So Jim Plunkett became a 2-time Super Bowl champion quarterback with the Oakland Raiders. The Patriots were the team that drafted Plunkett 1st overall in 1971, but the Heisman Trophy winner just didn't pan out there. In 5 years with New England, Plunkett failed to record a single winning season. He had 62 touchdowns and 87 interceptions. Plunkett was dealt to the 49ers in 1976 before finally landing in Oakland, where he fixed his career. The Pats probably could have taken Archie Manning, who went right after Plunkett. Hall of Famers John Riggins and Jack Youngblood would have been good picks too, or Frank Lewis, or Isaiah Robertson, or J.D. Hill, all Pro Bowlers. The New Orleans Saints, Ricky Williams, 1999. As many of you know, Saints head coach Mike Ditka surrendered the world to the Washington Redskins in order to get the number 5 pick. Why? Because he wanted Texas running back Ricky Williams. So Ditka surrendered all of his selections from 1999, plus 1st and 3rd rounders in 2000. Ricky Williams had a couple of good years in New Orleans, but it certainly wasn't enough to justify the trade. Maybe if New Orleans took Hall of Famer Champ Bailey or wide receiver Torrey Holt, the trade wouldn't have been such a flop. The New York Giants, Eric Flowers, 2015. The Giants have been quite mediocre since winning Super Bowl 46. You can attribute their struggles to some very bad drafting. Take Eric Flowers, the Miami offensive tackle, whom they selected at 9th overall, for example. Flowers' job was simple: protect Eli Manning. Spoiler alert, Flowers did not protect Eli Manning. He was a massive flop in his 3 seasons and was released by the Giants during the 2018 season. The New York Jets, Tony Scott, 2000. So here's the thing: every NFL team except New England regrets passing on Tom Brady multiple times back in 2000. It's amazing that the 6-time Super Bowl champion wasn't taken until the 199th pick overall. So why are we singling out the Jets here? Because they've been bullied by Brady the most over the last 2 decades. They had 4 first-round picks in 2000, And according to Gary Myers of the Daily News, the Jets actually thought about taking Brady, but they took Chad Pennington 18th overall instead. The Jets took defensive end Tony Scott with the 179th selection. He was their final pick before the Patriots took Tom Brady. So we'll leave it at that. The Oakland Raiders, Robert Gallery in 2004. So many draft mistakes throughout the 21st century, we could write a book series. Now some of you may wonder why we didn't have the 07 Jamarcus Russell pick on here. It's simple. The Raiders needed a quarterback at the time. He was the best prospect available. It didn't work. They still tried. But boy, oh boy, did they ever strike out in the 04 draft by taking offensive lineman Robert Gallery with the number 2 pick. The Raiders passed on Eli Manning and Ben Roethlisberger, a pair of 2-time Super Bowl champion quarterbacks. Gallery wasn't as big of a bust as Russell, but the Raiders missed out on far too many franchise-changing players here. That's why they probably regret the 04 pick the most. The Philadelphia Eagles, Leroy Keys, 1969. Philly drafted running back Leroy Keys with the number 3 selection in 1969, right after the Atlanta Falcons took Pro Bowl offensive tackle George Coombs. Keys would only spend 4 seasons with the Eagles, moving to the safety position in 1971 before landing with the Chiefs in 1973. With the next pick, the Steelers drafted Mean Joe Green, who was only by far the greatest player in franchise history. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Tim Worley, 1989. The Steelers are also among the greatest drafting teams in the history of professional sports. Plain and simple. They really don't have much of a list when it comes to big-time busts. But Tim Worley stands out as a selection they regret. Worley, a running back out of Georgia, was selected 7th overall by the Steelers in 1989. He played just 4 years with the team and totaled 1,338 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. Between the 8th and 22nd selections, 7 players wound up becoming Pro Bowlers. This included Eric Metcalf, Trace Armstrong, and Wayne Martin. Of course, all of them would have been better selections for the Steelers. The San Francisco 49ers, Ken McAfee, 1978. After starting at Notre Dame, where he won the 1977 National Championship, tight end Ken McAfee went 7th overall to the 49ers. McAfee never cut it as a tight end, recording a mere 46 receptions for 471 yards and 5 touchdowns in 2 NFL seasons. He would leave the NFL and eventually enrolled in dental school. Not a half-bad alternative. The 49ers would have been better off taking Ozzie Newsome, the Hall of Fame tight end, who fell to the Cleveland Browns at 23. Pro Bowl linebacker Clay Matthews would have been a nice option too. No, not that Clay Matthews, this one. The Seattle Seahawks, Rick Mirer, 1993. In desperate need of a new quarterback, Seattle took Rick Mirer with the number 2 selection in 1993, but he just wasn't able to put it together. In his 4 years with the team, he went 20-31 as the starter, and Mirer had just 41 touchdowns and 56 interceptions. The Seahawks could have selected Hall of Famers in offensive tackle Willie Roaf or running back Jerome Bettis. Michael Strahan would have been a nice pick too. Ditto for Garrison Hurst and Lincoln Kennedy, among others. Maybe they just really needed a quarterback. Rick Mirer wasn't it though. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Bo Jackson, 1986. The Buccaneers drafted the star football and baseball player 1st overall in 1986. However, Jackson and owner Hugh Culverhouse couldn't get along and disliked each other to the point where the former refused to join the team. Jackson went on to sign with the Kansas City Royals, and so the Auburn star athlete never played for the Bucs, and they totally wasted a 1st overall selection. Of course, Jackson would eventually go on to sign with the Raiders, where he played 4 seasons. Tampa Bay probably should have drafted one of the many Pro Bowlers to go in the 1st round, such as Tony Casillas, Jim Everett, Keith Byers, and Ronnie Harmon. I bet any of them would have played with the Bucs. I don't know, the Bucs are bad then. The Tennessee Titans, Jake Locker, 2011. Like the AFC South rival Jaguars, the Titans wrongfully believed they had themselves a quarterback of the future in 2011. Tennessee drafted Washington signal caller Jake Locker with the 8th pick in 2011. But that, as you know, didn't go so well. Unfortunately, injuries held back Locker from reaching his full potential. He never played more than 11 games in a season. He started a total of just 23 games over 4 years, and after losing his starting job in 2014, Locker retired, claiming he lost his desire to keep playing football. We've already mentioned some of the other superstars that went later on in the 1st round. J.J. Watt, Ryan Kerrigan, Cameron Jordan. Once again, you get the point. The Washington Redskins, Robert Griffin III, 2012. Washington surrendered a fortune to move up and select Baylor quarterback and Heisman Trophy winner RG3 with the second overall pick in 2012. In return, they handed over 3 first-round picks and their second rounder in 2012 to the St. Louis Rams. Griffin won the 2012 Offensive Rookie of the Year award and led the Redskins to the NFC East Division title. Unfortunately, knee injuries quickly derailed his career, and he was never the same after 2012. What bad draft picks do you think your team's made that belong on this list? Join us in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps us out a ton and we truly appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.